Hello, and thanks for downloading the latest episode of the Media Master Podcast. My name is David Rios TV, coming to you live and direct from Austin, Texas. Today's date is Friday, August 30th. And in this episode, we are going to talk about one of the biggest bands in Latin music, El Grupo Intocable. They're celebrating 30 years making music, making hits, 30 años, representando lo mejor de la música, norteño, tejano, regional Mexican, country, you name it. And we are proud that they are one of Texas's own. Ricky Munoz, René, Sergio, Johnny Lee Rosas, all the band, desde Zapata, Texas, to the world. I've had the privilege of interviewing Intocable a couple of times, so I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about their music, how it's evolved over the years, and we're going to also talk about how their music is impacting people today. So we're going to talk about music, the secret to success in music, the secret to success in the media industry. We're going to talk about some of those little tidbits, those little keys that I like to give here on this Media Master Podcast. But before I get into the story about Intocable, I'm a big fan of Intocable. First, let me get a couple of items out of the way. It will take me less than 30 seconds, but I want to make sure that I mention this before I get into the story for today. I have a lot of resources available, absolutely free. I have an online course where I teach video production, audio production, photography. It's called Media Master Course. And I've got a lot of free tutorials. Go to my website. Some of them are listed there. Or look for me on YouTube. I've got my YouTube channel, and I've got hundreds of videos, a lot of free content with groups from Brindis to Los Tigres del Norte, Los Tucanes de Tijuana. I've got Intocable on there, Grupo Pesado, all sorts of cool music interviews, and of course a lot of free lectures. A lot of people don't know this, but I also used to be a professor at a university. Now I just do this online. So I've got some free lectures online if you like marketing, and I've also got some free tutorials where you can learn how to make money online, pretty much doing what I'm doing now. So I invite you to go to my website, davidrios.tv, or look for me on my YouTube channel. So let's get right into the story. Vamos a entrar a lo bueno, vamos a entrar a la música. So I've been working in music pretty much all my life. I moved to Austin in 1994 to go to college. I'm originally from Del Rio, Texas, and when I moved to Austin in 94 to go to St. Edward's University, I was already a DJ. I used to work on the weekends, and I used to work at a radio station. It was a Tejano radio station. And one of the bands that we were always playing and that I really liked was El Grupo Intocable. And back then, they had the song Eres Mi Droga. And I had a chance when Intocable when they were first starting off, they were doing nightclub gigs. They were performing in smaller venues. And I remember I was at a radio station and we were promoting a baile that they were going to have here in Austin. I went to the show that weekend, saw them for the first time live. There was probably like 800 people in the crowd, not that much compared to Intocable now. And the place was Club Carnaval on East Riverside Drive in Austin. And I remember at the end of the night, I remember seeing Ricky walking towards the office. I was walking out of the office and we kind of saw each other and we kind of nodded like, hey, hi, how are you? I didn't want to go up to him. I was a little, I was still a little shy, working in radio. I wasn't used to being around artists and celebrities yet. So that was it. And lo and behold, that weekend, they were going to also do another show in my hometown, Del Rio, Texas. So I was with some college buddies and we're like, hey, let's go to Del Rio, where I'm from. Intocable is going to be playing and we'll see them back to back. So we followed them. We followed the band. We followed the show down to Del Rio. And that day, they were playing at an outdoor venue, an amphitheater. And the weather was real bad. The show ended up getting rained out. Nobody showed up. And I remember I was kind of hanging out in the backstage, and just the guys clearing the stage, the show, the equipment being taken down, and just hanging out in a room back there while everybody was staying out of the rain. And that was it. that was it. Hung out a little bit. I don't think I talked to Ricky that day. I talked to some of the original band members. Some of the band members that were there that day, I don't know if y'all remember, but Intocable, a long time ago, they got into a bus accident and some of their band members died. Well, the band members that I met that day, one of them was the animador, who also played percussion, I believe. I think his name was Daniel. I had a chance to meet with him and see him with Intocable. So, a couple of years later, unfortunately, they had that tragic accident, which really shook the band. Pero, Ricky and Renee managed to keep it together and keep making hits. I remember the song they put out was El Amigo Que Se Fue, in honor of that. So fast forward a couple of years, I'm working at the Grammys after that. After radio, I went to go work for the Grammys, and I remember getting some of their albums that they were submitting to the Grammy Awards, and I was like, okay, this is pretty good. We did a couple of showcases for like South by Southwest, promoted a couple of shows that they were going to do in Austin, and then I went to go work for Univision. And Univision, I was the music reporter, and I had a chance to interview Intocable twice. One of them was at a kind of like a private listener meet and greet event at a club. And another one was at a baile. They were there with Lalo Mora. I don't know who else was there that day. Exterminador, I believe. But I had a chance to interview Intocable there. So I've interviewed him like 2 or 3 times. Well, two times to be exact. And I've just always been a fan of their music. Working in radio, you find yourself in the booth, in the DJ booth, 5 days a week for 4, 5, 6 hours straight. So you end up hearing a lot of music. So some of my favorite songs always came from Intocable. And what I like about Intocable now, so fast forward to today, they're celebrating 30 years making hits. They got this new album called Modus Operandi. And I've been listening to it. It's got 16 tracks. And it's really cool to have one of your favorite artists put out an album, not just a single, and put 16 tracks, not only 12. A lot of artists just put 12 songs or 13 songs, 14 songs. Not Intocable, they put 16 on this recent album, Modus Operandi. And it is different. And I think this is one of the secrets, one of the keys to the success of Intocable. And we can use the same formula in our personal life and in our careers, is that one, they've been consistent, always performing. Even during the pandemic, they were hustling, they were working, they were traveling, they were touring. So they've always been consistent in staying in front of the fans. Ricky and Renee, the whole band, they're very savvy on social media. So they've always been very consistent putting out music. They've been very consistent doing media interviews, working with the press, performing for radio stations, showcases, music festivals. So, and also what I like about another key to Intocable and to Ricky and these guys is that they're from Texas, they're bilingual, they know the Mexican market, they know the US market, they're very smart guys, and they're able to do the crossover. So they're able to live in the US, live the American dream, pero al mismo tiempo hacer música norteña, que es la música que a todos nos mueve. So yeah, very consistent. They're always putting out new albums. Well, not always, but consistently putting them out. And I think that's one of the keys to success is doesn't matter, time's gonna pass. Make sure you're always active, staying top of mind. And if Intocable, they put out, they're one of the greatest bands del género regional mexicano, and a lot of crossover. They've done some pop and stuff like that. So being relevant in the sense that they do crossover, they change their style. So one thing is consistency. And another secret that I see is that they always change, their sound evolves. A lot of bands, and I'll venture out to say bands like traditional norteño bands like Invasores, San Pesado, Lalo Mora, Rieleros, bands like those, Tigres, they kind of have a very standard established sound. So does Intocable. But what I like about Intocable, that like their intros, when they start a new song, it starts one way, transitions into another style, and then the song kicks in with like a cumbia. So sometimes it takes 30 seconds for the song to kick in. You don't know what's coming up. You don't know if it's going to be a balada, if it's going to be a cumbia, if it's going to be, I don't know. So that's what I like about Intocable. They always keep it fresh. They always keep you guessing what's going to come next. Y con este disco de Modus Operandi, man, they hit the nail on the head once again. And the quality of this recording, I like it. I'm not a professional engineer that does this stuff for a living. I just know good sound when I hear it. And compared to other albums that they've released, like I've gone back and listened to some other ones, this one sounds really strong. And I was listening to their album on iTunes, and I'll be hearing some other artists, and the music sounds good. And then when you start the Intocable album, the Modus Operandi album, it's like, boom, like it's got a lot of amplification. I don't know what they did to it. I don't know how they mastered it, but the album is loud. The album is solid. It's heavy. It's deep. It's deep. Las letras de la canción. You got to give it up to the songwriters, everybody who creates the songs for Intocable, from the composing to the arranging to the songwriting to the engineering, everything. It's a well-crafted album, and I'm glad that Intocable put it out for their fans y demostrándonos nuevamente. Not that they need to prove anything to anybody, but it seems like they put out these hits so effortlessly. Ricky and René, the way they play music, it just seems so natural for them. These guys are geniuses, and I hope that they are around to keep putting out new music more and more and more. I gotta admit, I do miss the old style of Intocable. I'm just glad that they put out a new song, and I recommend it if you haven't had a chance to listen to it. Listen to the lyrics, escuchen la letra. A lot of it has a lot of meaning, a lot of personal meaning, and I'm sure you're gonna find a jewel, una joya in the album that's gonna resonate with you. So give it a listen, amigos. El álbum se llama Modus Operandi, del grupo Intocable. And friends, it was nice to check in once again, talk music with you, talk shop, and talk about one of my favorite artists. I appreciate you subscribing to the Media Master Podcast. We're on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, and I think these also go up to YouTube. So I appreciate you taking time to listen all the way to the end. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys had a great summer, and I will catch you on the next episode. God bless you, y nos vemos a la próxima. Saludos.